Okay, I got about 1 minute after 2 p.m. Eastern time. So again, thank you all for joining us this afternoon for the Rodale Institute Farmer Training Programs in Organic Agriculture webinar. Who are your presenters this afternoon? So again, I'm Justin Barkley. I'm the Education and Veteran Programs Manager here at the Rodale Institute. I've been here altogether about 5.5 years or so, and I myself am an Army veteran, so that's kind of instrumental for our Veteran Farmer Training Program, which we'll talk about in a second. And then I'll turn it over to Dan.
Hi, everyone. My name is Dan Kemper. I'm the master trainer here. I started with Rodale in 2014 as a field technician, up to farm manager, and now master trainer, where I get to educate all of our students on how to farm organically. So we're talking a little bit about our program today, and very happy to have everyone here.
Thanks. And definitely Dan does a lot of the hard work here. I'm more behind the scenes helping the program run, as it's got a lot of moving parts to it. But before we get too in depth, maybe you guys are not very familiar with what the Rodale Institute is. So Rodale Institute is a 501c3 nonprofit. We have 3 primary missions of research, farmer training, and consumer education. And Dan and I, most of our time is spent smack dab there in the farmer training aspect pillar, but we also are involved with the consumer education part as well. So our founder was J.I. Rodale. He was also the founder of Rodale Inc. You know, they made a whole bunch of famous publications and stuff back in the day. The original name of the Rodale Institute was the Soil and Health Foundation, and is not at our current location, but was actually at another farm about 25 minutes away from our main campus location, located in Emmaus, Pennsylvania. It was actually his son, Bob Rodale, who purchased the current farm location there in Maxatawny Township, Berks County. So again, about 25 minutes away from his father's original idea, and put a lot of those practices into a much larger scale. And then we have a whole bunch of locations that consist of the Rodale Institute, mostly nationally, but also an international site as well. As you can see there, you know, Pennsylvania, California, Georgia, Iowa, Tennessee, Washington, and then, as we mentioned above, about our international presence there in Italy. So now I'm going to kind of turn it over to Dan. He's going to talk about, you know, the Rodale Institute. Actually, I'm going to give you an overview, and then he'll get more in depth here. So here's just a picture of our great cohort that we had last year in our 2022 cohort. So first off, you know, what is the Rodale Institute Farmer Training Program, or RIFT as we call it? And we also have the Veteran Farmer Training Program, which is really just a subset of our overall RIFT program. Keeping the veteran program somewhat separate allows us to access different funding streams and funding opportunities, but altogether, they all fall underneath what we refer to as the RIFT umbrella. So RIFT is a paid training opportunity. So this is where students can learn about organic agriculture. You know, there's a couple programs out there that provide opportunities for individuals to learn about organic agriculture, but this is kind of one of the unique ones where not only is it paid, but it's a very robust program. We have primarily a long season opportunity, which is 35 weeks, and that more or less mirrors the vegetable growing season that we have in our portion of Pennsylvania. We do have short season opportunities. These are generally limited to military veterans for the most part. But again, our primary program is the 35-week one. You know, again, that encompasses a very holistic, from, you know, seed harvest all the way to the final, you know, wrapping down of the season. Housing is also provided for students who are not local to the immediate vicinity there within Berks County. So again, that kind of falls into our next point of where does this training occur? So it's at our main campus. As you saw on the other slide, we have a lot of locations spread throughout the country, but primarily at the moment, our training occurs at our main campus location there in Berks County. There's also an additional 8-month training opportunity at Pocono Organics. This opportunity is currently limited to military veterans. And then, as you can kind of see that final little bullet point there, we are in the process of exploring the possibilities of expanding this training opportunity at some of our Rodale satellite locations, both down south, Midwest, and out west. So I'm going to turn it over to Dan because he's been very, very instrumental at really making this program robust and achieve the good reputation that it has at the moment from not just, a basic program, but a very robust educational and training opportunity.
Thanks so much, Justin. Yeah. Yeah, so we didn't always have as enriched of a program or curriculum. And this is kind of occurring in the last few years, so to say. The farmer training program at Rodale was part of what was called the ASC, or Agriculture Supported Community Program. And that was really focused on food access with a very small addition to farmer training. But it wasn't the main purpose of that grant or that program. So as that kind of finished and went through its cycles, we decided to keep the farmer training part of it as a Rodale program. And so that's been, within a farming department here for so long, and just recently moving to our education department and really uncovering and finding out the best way to teach people how to farm. It's not always as easy as just putting somebody in the field or sticking them on the tractor and having them go for it and figure it out themselves. We really wanted to accelerate the learning process so that when somebody leaves here after, 35 weeks is not that long in the grand scheme of things. So within 35 weeks, we really want them to leave with the maximum amount of information possible, not really just trying to figure it out on their own. So as Justin said, we have integrated our veteran farmer training with our non-veteran farmer training and under the RIFT umbrella. And so we have a large cohort or a large class of students that come here every year, and they start in March and go all the way through November, learning all types of skills in farming, but also skills in finances and owning a business. So it was really the idea that we realized we were good at making farm laborers and people that can work very hard and very fast and knew how to do that, but people weren't ready to take the jump and become actual business owners. So it was really in this transition into a higher education program that we realized that we really need to incorporate this financial model into it. And so it's really a third of our program now. Our program stands on science, farming, and business. And so we're really, again, trying to cram everything possible into that short 35-week program. And we've really found that the sweet spot here is with a nice mixture of classroom time and time in the field. Because if we just do all hypotheticals, then you leave the program with no actual hands-on training. And if it's all hands-on training, then you're left as simply more of a laborer than a manager or someone who can see or oversee a situation or a production line. So our split is essentially 60% of the time the students are in the field learning how to plant, harvest, process, all the things that go along with production. And 40% of the time they're in the classroom or on field trips, learning the more critical thinking side of what they're experiencing in the field. So it allows them time to step out of the busyness of a farm and take a breath and really get into learning mode to absorb this information and not just in one ear and out the other. So about 24 hours of the week are spent in labor and about 16 hours are spent on curriculum, whether that be lectures, presentations, or field trips. Yeah, and to go along with that, this has been a program that's been an internship for a very long time. And just in the last year or so, we've made the transition to a new level of education here. So instead of having an internship, which might just be 3 or 4 months in between semesters for a college student to get some exposure or entry level, the calling them students and referring them as students, and this is kind of a university style education, has really stepped up the way that this program is viewed and the way that we can now operate and how we can partner with other universities and whatnot. Right, so we talked about this a little bit, but here's some of the topics that our students cover. So all types of stuff. A lot of this is going to be crop focused right now. So we've had a very large livestock component in the past. Our livestock quantities here kind of waver each year. So we've decided this year to really focus on the crops, that being vegetables, grains, corn, beans, fruits, tree fruits, herbs, perennials, all types of stuff like that. And really not just diving into the production, but then the soil health, and then also the efficiency of productions. We have many different types of rotations and different techniques with the same crops. So we'll have lettuce grown in a high tunnel next to a market garden, next to a large scale field of plastic, next to a regenerative organic rotation, all in the same time, so that students are able to kind of watch in real time how these different techniques play out, and how what the implications are for when you decide I'm going to do a plastic system or I'm going to do a no-till system. There's always ups and downs with both of them. So it's always good to know the efficiencies of scale, as well as the equipment and the tractors that go along with that. We dive into just about everything that a business owner would need: the financials, certification, how to start a farmer's market, increasing food access of your community, all types of things that go along with owning a business and owning an agricultural business and organic agriculture. Yeah, so the field trips or the farm visits are really what some of the students here have told us is one of the most important parts of the program, actually. So as much effort as we put into our classes here and the field production, sometimes getting off the farm and seeing what other people are doing is a really big experience of its own, and really allows our program to envelop a wider scale of diversity of production styles without having to do it all ourselves here on the farm. So we can go into the middle of Philadelphia and look at an urban farm, and we can also look at a large wholesale produce market, as well as going to our regional farms or some of our local friends around here that are much smaller, and really seeing all these different styles of production and different crops, different livestock. It's really one of those things that really brings Rodale out into the community and lets people know what we're doing, but then also allows those farmers who have been doing these amazing things for so long to share what they know and share what they've been doing with the next generation of farmers. It's really an important piece for somebody that didn't grow up in farming like myself. A lot of the people in this picture here are first generation farmers. So it's really important that we establish a network for them so that they can move into this industry with ease and without having to do it all on their own. Yeah, and I'll finish up with just a little bit of our statistics here, in that this program's been around for quite some time. As I said before, it was known as the ASC, but is now RIFT. And we have served well over 100 students or 100 interns to date. The program's been growing each year, getting a little bit more educational, more enriched, to the point that we now have a really nice curriculum that we think is going to serve us well as we continue to follow it through the coming years. Here are some of our friends that stayed in touch with us. So some of our students and interns that went on to start their own farms or stay in the industry of maybe being a consultant or a farm manager for a different area. Yeah, there's no limit to the people that we have helped. And yeah, I think that's all I want to say. Thanks, Justin.
Thanks, Dan. And again, the Veteran Farmer Training Program was kind of added on to the existing, at the time, ASC program. So it's definitely a few years younger than this. And the genesis for the Veteran Farmer Training Program came about, I was meeting different individuals, recruiting for this other program that we had partnered with one of the local universities, where I would come across military veterans that said, "Hey, Justin, I want to learn about organic farming, but I just don't want to go back to college. I don't want to go back to that formal university-like setting." So that was kind of a light bulb moment for me there in 2015. And so by that next May, in May of 2016, we're actually able to have our first military veteran participate in the Veteran Farmer Training Program. So since those, the early goings there in 2016, we've had over 67 veterans have participated in the program in one form or fashion. The veteran demographic just tends to skew a little bit older than the typical groups that have participated within the RIFT program. So our youngest veteran was 24 years old, and we've had a couple veterans who are 70 plus. So again, we try to make this opportunity as widely available to as many people as possible. So there's just a couple of the statistics there, from the service breakdown between Army, Navy, Marines, Air Force, Coast Guard. Again, as Dan highlighted, these are just a couple of the farmers that we have some touch with that are doing great things within the organic industry. And similar to Dan, we've had people come from all over So you can see a whole handful list of the states that the veterans have come from. Again, a lot of them have bounced all throughout the country and the globe prior to arriving here at Rodale. So a lot of times, when we're out there recruiting or giving informational presentations about, what is RIFT, what is this Veteran Farmer Training Program? So we figured we'd put together a small little list here of, what are the frequently asked questions that we get here. So this is an application process. So this can be submitted through, email or regular mail. The application is on our website for the RIFT program or for the Veteran Farmer Training Program. We will begin our interview process here, probably starting middle to end of next month. So we'll start reviewing the applications that have slowly, trickled in over the past several months, or maybe they just missed the cutoff for our 2023 cohort. So we'll start reviewing those applications, and those ones that we think are really good, we'll start setting up first round interviews. So that's normally either a Zoom or phone call with either Dan or myself. I normally take on the veteran side of things, and Dan takes on the non-veteran side of things for the initial screening process. But then I really want to iterate how important that second round interview is, because we're really trying to find a good group of people that are going to make a very solid cohort, a group that's able to work together, bring that positive energy each day, because anyone who's involved within the field of agriculture knows how difficult or how draining it can be at different times. So it's really important for us that we find a good cohort each year and that they're able to have a very successful season. So generally we have anywhere between kind of 15 to 20 slots total within the program each year. Normally between 8 to 10 veterans each year, or 6 to 10 non-veteran slots within each growing season. So next year we're anticipating start dates of March 4th through November 1st. So that's kind of pretty much that first Monday or so there in March through pretty much the first Friday there within November. Obviously the dates shift slightly each year, and we may end up going back, to like March 9th or something in one of these upcoming start dates. One of the other things that's, I think, very important or very valuable for this program is the housing. So this just allows us to access, students or those participants who are not immediately from the Kutztown or the Berks County, Pennsylvania area. So housing is provided for them. Currently, they're living in dorm-style pods at one of the local universities there, Kutztown University. They're one of our partners, located, as you see, they're just a few miles away. You will need your own vehicle just because it is not directly on the farm main campus property there within Kutztown. But also, as we'll talk about here in the next couple slides, is we have a lot of partners. So sometimes throughout the week, you have the opportunity to work offsite or for offsite experiential learning opportunities, and we're not able to run people out to these sites. And so that people are able to actually access them, it is a requirement that people have their own vehicles. Another thing that we want to talk about is, this is a full-time commitment. This is kind of a full-time job level commitment, 40 hours per week. But there is a weekly stipend that is provided to the students within the program. And generally, for the most part, weekends are normally off. So especially with us kind of wrapping down some of the livestock component, with the veggie focus, we're able to really kind of keep that balance. So, not to burn people out within that 35-week periods, kind of let them regenerate over the weekends and come back anew that the next Monday morning. So as you can see here, this is some of our current students within the program here. So you can see see them, and they come, from all over. So Gigi, she's from Pennsylvania area. Brittany's from New Jersey. Andrew's coming to us from down in Florida. Mika's coming from Colorado. And Lucy and Rodrigo, they both come to us from Arkansas. And as you see there, yep, go ahead, Dan.
Could we mention the fellowship? I kind of think I forgot to mention. Yeah, sorry to jump in there. Yeah, so you can see at the bottom of this slide, that's Will and Ramon. They were students last year, and we have a second track for the RIFT program called the Fellowship, in which we keep somebody on for one whole calendar year after they finish their first season, and that they become essentially the managers in training in the field. So they'll be hired on for the fellowship directly following graduation. They'll go through the winter time of learning mechanical skills, carpentry skills. They'll go to all the conferences with myself and a few other people. Any learning experience that they can find, Rodale also pays for. So it's a really, it's kind of what farmers do in the off season. We go to conferences and we fix all the tractors and the leaky pipes. So they go through that experience, which we think is very valuable and hard to replicate in the middle of the season. This is always an off season thing. So they go through all of that. And then when the new students come in the next season, they are essentially supervising them under my supervision. So it's essentially, I give them direction, then they go and they give the class that direction. Then I talk with them about how that went. Did they do a good job? Should it have been said a different way? A lot of different management skills and leadership training going on, and in real time, because it's really important that it's actually there. You know, again, not just hypothesizing or talking about the philosophy of it, but really kind of throwing them into the deep end a little bit and then pulling them back out and like telling them how they did. So that is the fellowship, and that's a pretty there's a lot of a lot of people that want to do that. So it's I'm sorry, I'm blanking on the word.
It's an honor for people to be able to kind of spend that second growing season there and really kind of
Competitive.
define it.
There it is. Sorry about that. But yeah, that's, sorry to jump in, Justin. That's all I wanted to say, just a little bit about the fellowship, because that's a big piece of this program. And again, the really big piece that makes actually a farm owner and a business owner. So these guys are going to go on to actually start their own businesses. Will has already started his mushroom business, so he's already opened his LLC before he even graduated. So we can see that this clearly works, and past fellows have also opened their business or actually been hired by Rodale. So a lot of success out of that. Sorry, keep going, Justin. Thank you for.
Yeah, no, and as we mentioned before, this is just the military veteran participants or students within the program this year. So again, Julie, she's coming to us from Colorado, though she is originally a Pennsylvania native. Mike's from the Eastern Pennsylvania region. Sam's coming to us from Colorado. Brian also from Colorado, and they did not know each other prior to coming out here to the Rodale Institute. Andrew is coming to us from Florida. David down there from the DC, Maryland area. He's currently a professor at the Naval Academy. And then Alex is coming to us from Kansas. And you see Ramon's picture there again, because he was a military veteran in our program last year. And so he also is kind of dual hatted here as a second year fellow, but also one of the military veterans that's within the program. So a lot of what makes Rodale or the RIF program successful is the great partners that we work with. So as Dan mentioned, we have offsite experiential learning opportunities. You know, we're not able to grow every single type of thing or expose them every type of growing system or model or business model. So we like to partner with other people within the area. So not only through a field trip, but also with extended working opportunities. So one of the partners we've been working with for several years now is Katydid Hill Farm. So they kind of focus on medicinal herbs and making their own tinctures and stuff like that. We do a little bit of growing herbs, but not at the scale that Caitlin and her partner Ben are doing at the farm there. Then we have Amira there at Sista Seeds. So her business model is really focusing on seed savings, especially those heirloom seeds. So that's kind of her entire, production models, not necessarily growing to sell the produce, but growing produce just for the sake of grabbing or producing the seeds to then sell. So she's located at, again, one of our partners there, the Seed Farm, which will be on one of the upcoming slides, the Red Cat Farm there with Tina. So she focuses on small grains. And then Farmer John, she's a great partner down there within Philadelphia. She's got a couple urban farm locations sprinkled throughout the city, and she's also a Rodale ambassador as well. So again, it's great to be able to extend this opportunity for our students, just to gain that additional insight and experience, from real world businesses that are out there, not, stuck within the confines of just the kind of the nonprofit thing that we are doing here at Rodale. And other things, hey, what are people supposed to do, or what are these students going to do when they're done their time at Rodale? So even though, 35 weeks seems like a long time, it can go by a lot faster than some of them think. We're getting ready to head into our third quarter exam that we're going to have here in about another, week and a half or so. So one of our great partners in the area is the Seed Farm. So they're known as what is called an incubator farm. And an incubator farm is a place that has a lot of the farm infrastructure that already exists. So rather than, the individual beginning farmer going out there and trying to acquire all this, expending all their own capital or getting super giant loans to see if their idea will even work, an incubator farm has all the tractors. They have greenhouses that you can rent space from. They have walk-in cooler space. They have the tractors. They have the farm implements. They have, a lot of those tools there on site. And you just end up purchasing what you need kind of from an a la carte menu in order to try to get your business up off the ground. So they'll lease acreage. I think the minimal amount that they'll lease is about 1/8 of an acre. If you're doing like a very small condensed cut flower operation or some type of very intensive growing or spacing method, but they'll lease land up to, even 1 or 2 acres, just depending on the size. And if you are shown to be successful, we even lease you a couple more acres after that. So I think they kind of said on average, a beginning farmer could look to spend between $1,500 to $2,000 per year, which is really a ridiculously low cost to kind of get your business idea up off the ground and running. They also have building opportunities for markets and stuff like that. Before I mentioned Pocono Organics. So you see there on the lower right-hand corner there, their founder there was Ashley Walsh. So this is an opportunity for military veterans. So after they're done their time at Rodale, they have the opportunity for an additional 8 months to work at the Pocono Organics. Again, they're a great partner of ours. We'll actually have one of our regional resource centers from the Rodale Institute is located within that building as well. You can kind of see there a little bit those giant greenhouses that they have there in the back. So that's a really large growing opportunity that they have during the winter months, which we just don't have at Rodale. We have one greenhouse, but it's not near the size that is. So they do a lot more growing and they do a lot more stuff during the off season. So as our season kind of winds down there in October, November, veterans could potentially transition to that location, spend the winter months there, and then, kind of wrap that up around next May-ish or so, about 7-8 months later. Then there's also other, apprenticeships, networking opportunities, partners. So PASA, obviously, they're one of the great leaders within the state of Pennsylvania. They kind of have several apprenticeship opportunities, whether it's the dairy grazing one, the diversified vegetable operation. So they kind of marry you up with one of the farmers that's within the area where you hope to operate, and you kind of get your apprenticeship one-on-one time set up with them. The Farmer Veteran Coalition, they've been great partners with Rodale Institute for at least 5 to 7 years now, both financially by giving us support for the military veterans to run to pay their stipends and stuff like that, and also great for a networking opportunity. And then Carversville Farm Foundation. So that's a group that we've worked with for, I guess, about 2 years now, Dan. So they've done a lot of great work. They're a nonprofit as well, but they grow stuff at a production style. So they're a lot less on the farmer training, but more on the production style, where they donate, I think it's like 90% plus of their products directly to food banks and to homeless shelters and stuff like that. So again, those are great partners that allows us to expand our opportunities and our network. And lastly, a lot of people will reach out to us, sending us different opportunities for other internships, or, a lot of farmers are skewing a little bit older in age, at least according to the, 2017 ag census. The average age of a farmer is slowly creeping up, and there's a lot of them that are looking to transition their farm, over to the next generation. So they'll reach out to Rodale because they want someone to take it over and to farm it organically, or they want a military veteran to take over the farm or to help, give them very reasonable rates. And we'll post those opportunities on our alumni Facebook. So again, how are these, programs funded? So the RIF program is primarily funded through Giant. Giant is one of the larger grocery food stores within the area here. I think they're based out of Carlisle, Pennsylvania, I think is where the headquarters is at, but they're kind of have a footprint here within the Mid-Atlantic region. And they're also supported in the past by Prairie Organics. And the predecessor of RIFT was the ASC program that was supported by different regional grants and some USDA grants as well. The Veteran Farmer Training Program was originally privately funded the entire way from its inception there in late 2015 up until 2021, just through, again, private organizations. And then late 2021, we received a USDA grant to allow us to really expand this opportunity for veterans to mirror the full season opportunity that's available for RIFT students. So prior to that, it kind of depended on a year-to-year basis if I was able to extend veterans from their original kind of 2 to 4 months training opportunity to something that really mirrored the 35-week or almost 9-month opportunity that existed for the RIFT students. So again, that supplemental funding was really great. And as you can see, there's also some of our other great partners. So again, Pocono Organics, Newman's Own Foundation. So if you ever bought any of Paul Newman's, salad dressings or frozen pizza or something like that, some of that money is trickled back to help out Rodale. Again, Farmer Veteran Coalition, they're kind of a giant national network of military veterans that are farming in different capacities all throughout the state and, even abroad as well. You can see some of those other organizations as well. And you can see some of the smiling faces of our veterans and non-veterans that have been in the program over the years. So now I'm going to talk about some of the other resources that are available for beginning farmer, because we realize that, hey, not everyone is able to make that 35-week commitment, to come out to the Rodale Institute, and we totally get it. So again, those are the members of our education team. So one of the first things here is our virtual campus. So these are some of the things or different courses that are available. So some of them are free, some of them do have a fee. One of the other things is webinars. You guys are all attending this webinar right now. So this is, one of those informational services that we provide. So again, we encourage you to check out, not only this webinar, but also our upcoming webinars and the webinars that have already been recorded and are within our archive system there. A lot of great valuable information is stored on them. You can go back in and access it. So field days, workshops. So we have a couple of events each year. Dan's actually very instrumental in our Organic Gardening 101 workshop, which is one of our most well-attended workshops that's normally occurs kind of right at the end of March there. So early enough where people can take the knowledge that they're going to gain from Dan, but not too late where they can't, put it into practice for that upcoming growing season. And then our field days. So we have our big field day, normally the third Friday in July at our main campus there, but also our satellite sites have theirs as well. So I believe our Midwest Center is having their organic field day today, I think, and our California one just had theirs about 4 weeks ago. There's also the custom tour packages. So if you have a large group together, you can come out to Rodale, figure out one of the particular, tour options that you would like to do. If there's a specific topic or specific researcher you'd like to spend time with, just to reach out to us and we can get that coordinated. We've had all types of groups from, kid groups up to high schools, colleges, to all types of different master gardener groups, to a whole variety of people over the years. And then our consulting team. So our consultant team, they're not formally a part of our education department anymore, but they're a group of about 13 people. They're spread all throughout the country, and they provide a lot of one-on-one education to normally people who are existing farmers or to people who are wanting to transition their farm from a conventional farming method to an organic style farming method. So again, reach out to them at, consulting@rodaleinstitute.org, and they'll try to match you up with whatever part of the region you're with. And I will mention that at least for farmers within Pennsylvania at the moment, this service is totally free. So at least for the remainder of 2023, and I think through at least 2024, this service is free for Pennsylvania-based farmers and some other states as well, though it does kind of vary on a state-to-state basis. But an initial phone call and conversation with our consulting team is free. Then there's some specific things that are set aside for just U.S. military veterans as well. So veterans can attend our workshops for free. Again, pretty much veterans can participate in our webinars, as can pretty much anyone. And then there's also additional funding set aside for veterans to receive scholarships of up to 75% off for our virtual campus courses. So again, if you're interested, how could you help us? Obviously this program is not cheap. This is a paid training opportunity for those students. So as you can imagine, you have 20 students that are there and they're there for 35 weeks. So those costs can kind of add up. We definitely got to find some place to put them up. So the housing also has a fee as well. So you can spread the word to other military veterans and people that are interested about this opportunity. And then lastly, kind of shop and purchase food from your organic local farmers. So that's the best way you can support the farmers in your areas, by purchasing stuff from them. So again, this is our cohort here from this year, from 2023. A bunch of their smiling faces. Hopefully they're still smiling. This is about what, 20 something weeks later. So this is our contact information. And I can bring this back up once we kind of transition here to the different slides here. So if you're thinking of a question, we'll try to answer it now. But again, Dan and I, we work in the same office, so I'm not physically right in front of him at the moment, but normally, we're only about 5 feet apart from each other when we're, together in the office, though most of the time Dan's out there in the fields giving that hands-on experience and training to the students. So again, this is Rodale, and what are your guys' questions that you have?
Looks like we have one in the Q&A. And they asked, are there courses you might offer in Colorado in the near future, or online resources? So we talked about some of the online resources. We don't currently have a center out in Colorado, but Rodale always is looking for new partners, and if it fits, then it works usually. Alumni, is there alumni network in Colorado currently of prospective students that could tap and ask questions? Well, there certainly will be at the end of this year. I'd say I think maybe like 5 or 6 of our students are from Colorado this year. So
yeah, and ironically, go ahead.
No, you keep going. Yeah.
I was going to say, and the reason one of our veterans found out about this program was from last year. One of our veterans, her name was Donna. She's from Colorado. She went back home and, was speaking at her local veterans center there and was talking about how she had a great experience at Rodale. And then, a week or so later, Sam, who was this year's veteran from Colorado, was talking about some of some of the issues or challenges that he was having there out there in Colorado. And one of the staff there at the center said, "Hey, have you heard about this program at Rodale?" So even though he didn't physically, Sam never met Donna, but Donna talked about her experience there here at the Rodale Institute. She's from Colorado. A couple weeks later, Sam comes in, learns about the opportunity from that fellow staff member. So yeah, so it has worked through word of mouth like that. And as Dan mentioned, we have, several people there that have, ties to Colorado, and a bunch of them want to go back home. So there's definitely a possibility for that.
Yeah. All right. Our next question here is if I have a few producers and growers looking to get in touch with a farmer with a regenerative lens, best way to connect with us to talk about that is to follow those emails. Justin, do you want to put those back on the page there?
Yep.
So that is Justin and I. So you can send it our way. We have full access to our alumni network, and we talk with our graduates all the time. So happy to help on that regard. Is there a opportunity to learn about composting and mushroom growing, and to learn about rotational grazing with cows? We do cover all of that in the RIF program. I'm hoping that's the question, but if you're looking for outside of that, we have Justin, do we still have a composting workshop, or is that now a webinar?
Every couple of years we have it. That was one we used to have annually, but then we'll kind of transition it to, it's probably going to be every 3 or so years, but there's a lot of information within our webinars. So if you go back to our archive location there, so if you go underneath the rodeleinstitute.org website, go underneath the education tab and you hit webinars. Then once you're on the webinar page, you have to hit archived webinars. There's a couple compost resources there. Rick Carr is our master composter here at the Rodale Institute. He's also the farm director, so he's very busy, but if you have very specific compost questions, he'd be the one to ask. There's a couple other Rodale staff members who are also master composter certified, but Rick is that is his area of expertise. But compost is one of the lectures that the RIF students receive, but it's not, an entire track or anything like that. Similar to the animals, as Dan kind of mentioned, we don't have as many animals on site as we have had in prior years. So we really had to dial back that kind of training and education component. They get a couple lectures, but there's not an entire livestock track at the moment.
Right. And we also visit our friends out in the area. So
Yeah.
we'll find a livestock farmer that wants to teach, and we'll go out and visit them and answer all types of questions. Same thing with mushroom growing. We have had little demonstrations here, but nothing of scale. So we go out to our friends at Carversville who have a really nice shiitake organic growing operation on logs, which is really cool. So again, the opportunity there is for the students. The rotational grazing on this campus, we do have like very few animals, and those animals do make their way out to our vegetable and our crop fields to help with regenerating the soil and adding manure and organic matter back to the soil. So we do talk quite a bit about that. We have another question, the weekly stipend. So that changes different years. So this year it's currently $500 per week. And they get free housing and free veggies on top of that. We have a comment from Suzanne Schaefer. Thank you so much. So she passed her information along to a veteran group from Penn State York. So thank you so much, Susan.
One thing I just wanted to add with the stipend is that the students are kind of paid, while they're even getting the education. So even, they're still on the clock receiving those stipends, even if they're on a field trip. So it's not only time spent in the fields, which we thought was really important, not to kind of put that additional stressor. That's why it's paid weekly instead of, just an hourly wage.
Great. We have a question about what a day in the life of a student looks like. So happy to answer that. We found that the best way to execute this curriculum, even though the season is very flowing and changing and dynamic, is to keep a very structured weekly schedule. So the way that this works every week on repeat is that Monday morning, the students come in at 8 a.m. and we do a 4-hour lecture with myself in the fields. We walk through each growing area. We talk about it critically. We answer any questions. We go over anything that they want to discuss, and they have the entire morning from 8 to noon for us to do that. And it sounds like a long time, but we barely make it through that with touching all of the fields and really diving into these subjects. It's quite a bit of talking. And then they have lunch for an hour. In the afternoon, they either have a lecture or a field or a farm visit, like we discussed earlier. Tuesdays are going to be working all day. Oh, I should have said that during that Monday morning lecture walkthrough, we're also developing task list for the week because we're also working on these fields. So Tuesday is going to be executing as many of those tasks as possible. No lectures, no field trips, just working all day. Then Wednesday is going to be work in the morning, and then we have a lecture or a field trip in the afternoon. Thursday is going to be work all day. Friday is work in the morning, and then lecture or field trip in the afternoon, and then we have weekends off. So that's pretty much how we do it on repeat. There are different topics to our different quarters. The quarters are separated by exams. We have homework. We have a season-long project to develop a full farm budget and business plan that they can leave here and apply for a loan with, or apply to the incubator farm, the seed farm with. And that's it in a nutshell. That's certainly the day in the life. There's lots of learning and lots of work.
Yeah. Like Dan mentioned, this afternoon, they're in a lecture learning about mycorrhizal fungi. So this is kind of Dan and I time to break
in the morning.
Exactly.
Great. So next question here. As a veteran, would I qualify for the 35-week program? You absolutely would. Justin does hire for the full term as well, but if you wanted to apply through, there's just different avenues for applications. If you go to the website, you'll see 2 different sites, one for RIFT and one for the veteran farmer training. Those are both the same training, but there's 2 different styles of recruiting. And we do cover regenerative farming extensively throughout the 35-week program.
Yeah.
All right. Are these classes meant for full-time farmers, or also these are that are slowing and entering the farming field part-time? So we the commitment for this program is 40 hours a week. Sometimes we go over that, sometimes it's under that, but average it's 40 hours. So we do ask for that full-time commitment. We do have people that are opening their businesses on the side. We wouldn't recommend that right away for people who don't know a lot about farming, because it is very, very difficult. We don't want anyone burning out here, and it's very laborious, picking up potatoes and harvesting winter squash and moving chickens. So you can have a part-time job, but it's not always recommended because it kind of takes you away from the focus on education here. What kind of support is there for students after the program is over? The students are immediately signed into our alumni network. So right now that consists of a closed Facebook page where job and land opportunities that we come by are posted immediately over there for them to see. It's kind of just like a going list of all these opportunities for them to check into if they'd like to. And then we also have events. We have our graduation and our homecoming event where we invite our alumni back to gather with us and see all of the other cohorts and see this year's cohort. It is rather nice. I do like seeing all the different classes together, talking together and seeing how people have grown and what they're doing. And I see people giving advice. So and you also, anyone that graduates this program always has my email and number. So I've had plenty of my students leave here and they're in the middle of the field and they can't remember how to do a so-and-so. They text me and I can remind them how to do the so-and-so. So they always have our support when they leave here.
And also the consulting team, which I did mention that before, that service is free for those people who end up completing the RIFT program. So even if you just never join RIFT, that program may or may not be available to you depending on your state you're in, or you may have to pay for it. But those students who complete the RIFT program, that is a service that is provided free for them. And again, our consultants are spread across the country.
Great. Our next question is about international opportunities. And unfortunately, right now, we're still working on getting that back into our program. I think it might be in the near future, but for now, applicants have to be US citizens. We are working on that and we have had it in the past. So apologies for now, but hopefully soon to come. One person was like to start a 3/4 acre market garden. Is this the appropriate program for Rodale? It absolutely is. Our market garden is 1/2 acre and it's right next to our high tunnel, which is next to our field of vegetables that are grown at a scale that could go multiple acres. So whereas we have, maybe I want to show you how to grow an acre of potatoes, but I don't want to do that here because it's going to take so much time. So I'll dedicate 1/4 of a field or 1/4 of an acre to growing in that style. And then we'll talk extensively about what that looks like. We'll talk about how much time it takes to get through. A lot of what we do is we time ourselves going through a field, then we count how many people it took. That gives the individual that's learning an understanding of how many hours it takes for one person to harvest an acre of potatoes. And then we think about the how your stamina will decrease over time. So even though if 8 people, it took them 1 hour, and you think to yourself, oh, that'll just take me 8 hours, you're going to be a lot fresher in that first hour than the 8th hour. So we talk again a lot about that. So this would be a perfectly appropriate program for someone that wants to learn how to do a market garden on a smaller scale. But you would be exposed to the larger ones too. So the whole cohort goes through the entire program. Nobody picks a specialty. So if somebody comes in and they're like, I want to grow 100 acres of tomatoes, and we have another person that wants to grow a 1/2 acre market garden, both of those people will be working in both venues and both production styles. That's a mandatory part of the program. Are there requirements after the graduation, such as working in the farming industry? There are not. We hope that you stay in touch with us and you have a great, successful life and business, and that we can share your message and story if that's the way it goes.
Yeah, and we just find it is important for people to actually find out if this is something for them. We have had several of our students come to Rodale in lieu of attending college. So they don't have the upfront cost, to just realize at the end that, no, they don't want to be a farmer. So at a minimum, you will leave Rodale with the ability to have a very awesome garden. But it is important, you go through a good long grinding season here in the summer that, hey, this is something that you want to do, kind of builds you that confidence. But it's also important, hey, this is something that I don't want to do. I mean, obviously in a perfect world, Dan and I wish that 100% of the people would end up in farming, but the reality is, it's not 100%. So it's okay. I mean, we're not mad as long as people gave it an honest shot and gave their best effort during their time here at Rodale.
Yeah. Just like you said it perfectly. It's better to find out now than find out when you have all that land and debt that you don't like farming. So, here we try to facilitate the maximum possible educational environment, but at the same time, this is farming. So we don't necessarily pull punches when it comes to having to go out time after time and harvest and hand weed, the class might start getting a little bit tired of going out and harvesting cucumbers over and over again. But the reality is that this is what it's going to be like. So either now that you do or do not like cucumber growing, or you do or do not see the value in it. So it's good to just figure that out now. Does the goal of the participation after the program have to be to become a full-time farmer or owner? When we go through our application process, that is one of the biggest questions that we ask. We really want to make sure that people are taking this information and they're in the right spot to receive it, and that they're not taking up a spot that might be more useful to somebody else. So a lot of what we have focused here is business related. Probably a third of our curriculum is business related. So if somebody comes in here wanting to, be a consultant or do nutritional things, we're not against that. We love that. That's a great friend of ours. But if they're not going to use a third of the curriculum, or it's not going to be helpful to them, then maybe there's a better program for them to learn these skills than what we have to offer, because we don't want anyone to come through and then not be able to use what we're giving them. Our next question, do we use hand tools like the Jang Seeder and BCS? We absolutely do. Those are the two big tools of our market garden. And
It's along with Scratchy.
yes, we have some other cool market garden tools that most people don't know about. We have a tine weeder that's on bicycle wheels that goes right over top of the beds, and it's one of the coolest things I've ever used in a market garden. We have little manure spreaders, all types of fun stuff. So again, that's just one of the many production styles and crop styles that we are teaching here. I think there might be 5 or 6 different crop production styles that people learn in this program.
Well, thank you. A lot of great questions have come rolling in. And again, here's our contact information. If you think of the world's greatest question, 5 minutes from now after we sign off from the webinar. So did one just pop in?
Yeah, thank you, Susan. She said, good luck with the program. And Hillary Sweet also says, thank you for answering the health questions. Sheep Patel, also, thank you so much. We're happy to share the information with you.
Well, all right. I guess thank you all for taking time out of your day. It's an afternoon here, but I know we have people from all across the US and potentially from across the globe. So hopefully you learned something today about the educational resources that are available for beginning farmers, or even for those who are already farmers. Check out our education tab there for a bunch of great content. Again, thank you and have a good rest of your day.
Have a great day, everyone.